Hello, this is Dr. Paul Cottrell, and I would like to talk about Trump and Biden. So, as you know, Trump has been indicted for a series of things, but the latest in the news is these 37 counts of illegal possession of documents during his presidency. Now, this video isn't going to go into reading the indictment, what the charges are, but just my overall assessment of what is going on in the news, what is happening with the lack of coverage for certain networks and the over coverage of certain networks. So it's just kind of an American's point of view of what is going on dealing with Biden and Trump. So in terms of the indictment, he was arraigned on Tuesday, I think it was. In the news, thought there was going to be a spectacle. There was going to be this, it's some sort of riot kind of thing that was going to happen. I heard on some networks, I think it was CNN, where there was going to be up to 50,000 people protesting, at the venue in Florida. And there were probably, I think it was a few thousand, right? What is surprising is the actual security was laxed. It wasn't that tight, which is concerning, especially if someone wants to do something. One individual was arrested that broke the kind of like the barrier, which was just kind of like tape along the side of the road, holding up a sign, lock him up, which is a throwback to during the 2016 election, where people that were against Hillary kept on saying lock her up because of the 33,000 emails that she had in her possession when she was Secretary of State, but then at that time she already left the administration, the Obama's administration, and she was running for the 2016 election. So there seems to be a bias on the coverage, but also a bias with how the Justice Department handles these cases. Now, I don't want to be a lawyer, so this is just, I'm not looking at it from, all the legalese, but my interpretation of what Levine on Fox News said about the Espionage Act and the Presidential Retention Act, I think it's called, what is allowed and what is not. I think it's important to understand that the president has a unique position of maintaining papers during his administration, right? And that he is the executive branch. And that a president has authorities that other individuals within the executive branch do not. You got to remember the CIA, the FBI, the vice president, all the agencies, these individuals are an employee of the executive branch and they work for the president. The president is the CEO of the executive branch. Right? Now, according to Levine, it seems that the president, under the Retention Act, for papers, the president has the sole authority to deem something top secret or not. And not only that, it's through there is a writing within that statute that says that because he has the sole authority to determine what is classified and not, that if it's in his possession, it can maintain his possession. On top of it, these documents are all electronic, so the government already has a copy of them. So it's not as if the government didn't have a copy; they just want his copies. Now, other presidents have done the same thing, and some of them have capitulated. Obama has capitulated, and Clinton has capitulated on some stuff. Bill Clinton has capitulated on some stuff. So these presidents, they could have stated, you know what, I'm going to exercise my executive authority, my presidential executive authority, and not give you my copies. Now, you got to remember, we're working in an electronic age. All this stuff is electronic now. So the government had copies of this through emails and stored files and stuff. So it's not like he possessed information that the government didn't have. So if we read the statute that the president has the sole authority to determine if he should, have documents or not. The government, to me, seems as though they're pushing on an interpretation of the statute that is eroding the presidential powers. Now, this is an important point that I'm making. Going all the way back to Bush Jr. and Cheney, especially, Cheney, has been, and there's documents about this, very pro-executive branch powers, right? Maintain, if not expand, executive branch powers. The problem comes in is that when you start orchestrating wars and you're starting to evade the oversight of Congress, that becomes a problem. So we have a balance of power in the three pillars, the executive branch, the legislative, and the judicial. The problem that has been happening over time is that there has been an erosion of what the president can do, and that is basically coming from Congress, that erosion. There's been a pushback, and probably presidential scholars would maybe move the point of the pushback before Bush and Cheney, but I would say that it's around Bush and Cheney's time. Maybe even when Cheney was working for Bush Sr., because he worked in his administration, I think as an advisor. He expressed that the executive branch should have more powers. Now, so we got to put it in that context. You have an erosion of the executive branch because of Congress, right? But then there's also, on the other side of the coin, trying to circumvent oversight by Congress, from the executive branch. So, both parties are kind of at fault here. All right. But I think that Trump's defense, with the interpretation of the statute, the Presidential Retention Act, or whatever it's called, that that, that had many elements to it. Executive branch employees could not keep these records, but it states specifically in the statute that the president has sole authority to determine what he can have and what he cannot have. Not Congress, not the CIA, not the FBI, not the Justice Department. The Justice Department, the CIA, the FBI, they all work for the executive branch. They work for the president. And you want these agencies to be, impartial, right? Especially if they're investigating improprieties by the president or vice president or his cabinet. But the problem comes in is that when you embed the deep state, right, within the agencies, for decades, and move them up the ladder, right? They have seen presidents come and go, vice presidents come and go, cabinets come and go, but they remain, and they can garnish power within Washington, D.C. and exercise that power. So this is a concern. And this is why I keep on saying that the national security state is a problem. All right. So, so there's a few things that we need to look at here. The actual event of the indictment, and, some provisions within the espionage clause saying that he was reading a document or showing a document to someone that didn't have, security clearance, talking to his lawyers about destroying evidence. Now let's think about this. If what Levine is saying is true about how to interpret this statute, this Presidential Act statute, the president has sole authority to have certain records. No one else has that authority. He can, just by having it in his possession, he doesn't have to give it up. Now, what is legal and what is politically correct to do, right, is two different things. Vice President Pence, right? Vice President Pence had documents. He wasn't supposed to have any of these documents, right? When he was asked to give them back, he had to give them back. See, there's the nuance. He was not allowed to have any documents. The president is allowed under the statute. The president, and so this is the point that Donald Trump is making. These are mine. I don't need to give them back. If I give you something, it's because I feel that I should give it to you, not that I have to give it to you. There is the nuance. And so it's really an interpretation of what that statute is. Does that statute mean that the president has sole authority, and whatever if he has documents in his possession, that the government can't do anything about it, right? And you got to remember, everything's electronic now. So the government already has it. It's just that he has a copy. So that's another nuance to this whole thing. But the vice president should not have any documents that's in his possession that are of a classified nature. They are supposed to be relinquished back to the government when he leaves office. Now, give the benefit of the doubt, maybe he didn't realize that he had them, and then he gives them back. Okay, you made a mistake, you gave them back when asked, everything's kosher. You take it another step further. What happened with Biden? Biden was vice president, had lots of documents, and also as a member of Congress and the Senate, because he was my understanding is he started in the House and then ended up being senator. So, so he was he was part of the legislative branch for many, many, many years, decades, actually, right? He over those decades accreted many documents that he should not have had, ever. And when asked, he gave some of them back and is playing around with others. So you have a person, Biden, possessing documents when he was in Congress, and he took them, back to his private office, and when he was vice president and took it to his private residence and office, hasn't relinquished all of them back to the government, and should have never had them. Well, Trump never was vice president, never worked for the government at all, and went straight to the presidency, right? With his sole authority, he can have those documents. He could have every single the way the statute is, the president could have every single document that ever went across his desk and keep it in his possession. Probably needs to have a copy, for the archives, but he could have those in his possession. That's the way the statute is, the way Levine read it. And, people can watch the video when he's reading the statute. The sole authority of determining what the president should or should not have is the authority of the president. So just having the document in your possession, you've already approved that you can have it. Again, it's the it's the letter of the law and what is politically expedient. All right. Now take it one step further. Hillary Clinton, what did she do? She was Secretary of State under Obama and had many documents retained on her server, and had aides destroy devices that had proof that they had this information, and then swiped the servers clean, and people couldn't find the 33,000 emails that she had, right? Some of them were deemed classified, some of them weren't. But even a non-classified document, she should not have had in her possession, because she was not president. So you had Pence holding documents he shouldn't have never had, but he gave it back. Okay, made a mistake. All right, everything's kosher. Biden, over many, many decades, accreted a lot of documents that none of them he should have had, and he hasn't given them back, all of them. And then you have even Bill Clinton, who had tapes that were hidden, right, in his possession, and it went to court, and it was viewed that was his. It was his right as president to have those records, those tapes. So when you look at this, Trump, by just having in his possession the documents, is not necessarily declassifying it, but is the rubber stamp stating, I can have these, right? It's in his privy to have them. Every single document that went across his desk, he could keep. That's the way that statute works. Now, obviously, because of the millions of documents that flow through the office, he decided not to do that. It's not, it doesn't make sense, right? But if he thought that certain things he should have in his possession for whatever reason, because you got to remember, presidents still have security clearance and security briefings. Now, they may not be as detailed, obviously, as the current president, but they are part of a very close network of security advisors and especially if you're running for president again, right? So, to be up to speed on what's going on in Iran or Afghanistan or wherever, right? So the point here is that you had a lot of individuals on the Democratic side, on the Democratic Party side, that that had in their possession documents that they should have never, ever, ever had, and that a court has shown that Clinton, as president, could maintain his records. So it goes back to what Levine is saying with the understanding of what the statute is, and that is that the president has the sole authority to have a document or not, right? He doesn't have to ask the record retention committee or the archives, right? Because he could decide, I'm not giving you my document, especially when we're dealing with documents that are all electronic now. The government already has the document. They just want his document. So this goes back to an erosion of the executive branch. So I personally think, from that perspective, that what Trump is doing is the right thing, that he can have in his possession documents. Now, there are certain documents that have maintained a class of, a top secret, high level security classification for that document. But he could still have that in his possession. And when he said that he was, I guess in the indictment it's talking about how he was, talking about a particular document. He said that he could have declassified it, but he can't now because he's no longer president. But he could still have that document in his possession. Why? Because he used to be president and he can keep all of his records. He doesn't have to relinquish his records. That was the intent of that. It's other people that can't have records, like the vice president, like members of Congress, like the Secretary of State. Those things those are records and belong to the government. They can't have it. I mean, the statute makes it very clear. The president has sole authority. So if the understanding of that statute is right, what Levine's saying, Trump's going to be okay. All right. As long as he doesn't do additional stupid stuff. Right. Sometimes Trump can be his worst enemy. But people view this as that there's a double standard. When it comes to records, Biden is still playing with the archive agency, not giving back all the documents, where none of them should have been in his possession. None of them should have been in his possession, not one. Well, the president can have them. Now, what's odd is now, because Biden is president, can he say something as president to say, I need to keep those documents? I don't think the way the statute is that that's allowed. Clinton shouldn't have any of those. Hillary Clinton shouldn't have had any of her emails retained. Bill Clinton and his tapes, he was allowed to keep those. Now, when you go to Engelberg, I think it was his name, where he stole some documents and then put it in his pants, and then it had a minor fine for doing that. That was highly illegal. Again, another double standard. I think that document had something to do with, pre 9/11 Obama, pre 9/11 Osama bin Laden stuff that was going on in the Clinton administration. Is my memory. I could be wrong with that. But the bottom line was they were trying to destroy records. All right. So that's highly illegal. That's not what Trump was doing. But look at, just a slap on the wrist for Engelberg. So I think that they're trying to erode the power of the presidency, and that a president should be able to keep his records, as many of them as he wants, for as long as he wants. But I also think that those records there should be a copy of it for the National Archives, right? And then if something's super classified, then obviously it would be redacted, and and prevented, to be fully seen. If there was some sort of request for those documents. But the bottom line, the bottom line is the president has authority to determine if he is going to have a document or not from his presidency. That is the main case that is going on with this 37 indictments, and they spin it where they're trying to weaken him in the news. If anything, it's strengthening him. People that thought that they may go, to DeSantis or some other Republican candidate, has seen that there's a double standard now, and they're going to put their support with Trump. So they strengthen Trump, and I think they realize that the media, they don't want to cover, anything that's pro-Trump, only anti-Trump. Only anti-Trump. If he's talking about, his perspective of what's going on with the double standards, they don't want to cover that, because that's a campaign speech, and they're not going to allow him to, or step up on the podium and explain his perspective, or talk to citizens in a diner, or in a cafe. No. They only want to promote bad, and then they roll out a bunch of CIA and FBI, ex-FBI and ex-CIA guys saying, "Oh, this is so wrong that the president has classified information." He can have the classified information. He was president. So that's where, and then you add in the double standard of, you have a vice president and the president, right? Biden was vice president under Obama, and he's president now. And there is a substantial amount of evidence that's suggesting that he was bribed, and that he, at minimum, received $5 million through Ukraine, through Burisma, right? And that's just the Ukraine connection. There is a Chinese connection too, right? So you have a current president, President Biden, that is on the take and compromised. But you don't hear that in the news. No. On the day that Grasso says, Grassley, is it Grassley or Grasso? Grasso, and I think he's the Senate. Grassley, I think it is, Senator Grassley, was mentioning about these 17 tapes and the $5 million transfers into these, different companies and stuff that Biden's tied to, and that there needs to be further investigation. On the same day, what happens? Indictment of Trump. Same day. Come on. There's a double standard that's going on. And the reason why there's a double standard is that the deep state is fearful of a person that is not beholden to them. And Trump's not beholden to them. They know where the skeletons in the closet are for Biden. And because of that, they can control Biden. And unfortunately, not only the deep states, can control Biden and hide stuff for Biden, but, this connection, this flow of money, I heavily suspect that it is tied through certain conduits that the CIA has had for many years. So you got to understand that when OSS went and turned into the CIA, Alan Douglas, is it Dulles? Alan Dulles? Yeah, Alan Dulles, I think it is. Starts the CIA, right? So, but they were starting, because this was when the Cold War's, starting to happen, right? The Cold War's just starting. And the Nuremberg trials were starting to ramp up. They were trying to rebuild Europe, and they wanted to fund black op operations. So they created a bunch of companies to protect certain interests in terms of national security, and interests in terms of business interests between the United States and Europe. Alan Dulles had, he used to be a banker, and he had a lot of banking connections, right? So, there was this business aspect to the CIA, and they had conduit companies and employed and tried to protect certain Nazi officers or people that were sympathetic to the Nazi Party, that were potentially to go to trial, but were protected. This is Operation Sunshine, I think it was called, where they were trying to, to protect some Nazis. And then there's Operation Paperclip. But the point here is that through the whole genesis of the CIA, going all the way to, Iran-Contra affair, and, even the savings and loan scandal, that's CIA operation. And, I'm sure there is something similar that's going on with the Chinese and with the Ukrainians, that is the underpinning between the CIA and Biden. This is what I'm saying about the national security state. It is a rogue element of our country that needs to be obliterated. But because it's so deep, it's so powerful, that it's hard to destroy that national security state. That NSA, FBI, and CIA and its tentacles is extremely powerful. And to solve this problem, we need to absolutely destroy those agencies and rebuild from scratch, and to prevent another rising up of the national security state. So that is my take on it. Biden is on the take, from Chinese interests, but also the Ukrainian interests. And now he's becoming senile and run this out, and then they're going to use the same playbook that the Republican Party did. Alzheimer's for Reagan. He didn't know anything about what was going on in the Iran-Contra affair. And someone will fall for, if this continues to be investigated, someone else will fall for Biden, and Biden will just claim that he's senile. He is senile. That's also another problem. But I definitely think, in parting, that Trump is right to have in his possession documents because he was president of the United States. Biden, for his presidency, should be able to retain documents of his presidency. There should be a copy of those records with the National Archives, but the president should not relinquish his records as president. He should have those. Now, with this whole Clinton and Sachs tape ruling, my understanding is that copies of those tapes did not have to go to the National Archives. So that's an added kind of interesting feature to this. But that wasn't really considered, quote, classified information. That was coming from the agency saying, oh, this is classified or top secret or whatever. My understanding is those were his thoughts, and there was a recording that he he did, similar to what JFK was doing, or Lyndon Johnson. So copies of those probably should go to the National Archives as a record, but it's possible that he didn't have to. So again, it's the notes of a president may not necessarily have to relinquish to to the National Archives, but classified information. It seems that the way the statute is written, the president has sole authority on what he can keep or not keep. I think that's an interesting take on how this may evolve. If this is true, then there is no way that they're going to get a unanimous jury or even a majority of the jury to claim that he should be convicted of these charges. So I'm not sure if they need to be mandatory, 100% of the jury, unanimous jury, or if it has to be a majority. I don't know. But the point here is that I think Trump was in his right to have these documents. And it's a little bit more kind of politically correct to give back certain documents if they really don't want them. But it's in the purview of the president to decide that, not the National Archives, not the Congress, not anybody other than the president of the United States. So there are certain privileges, I think, that should be given to the president to maintaining their records. But again, I think there should be a copy of it at least in the National Archives. So thank you for listening on my take on what's going on and the bias of the media, the bias of the DOJ not prosecuting people that were destroying evidence like Hillary Clinton, not giving all of their documents back like Biden, and over criminalizing or trying to criminalize Trump's activities as president, or even after his presidency. And again, you got to remember, he is winning in the polls. They wanted to try to slow him down, but in a strange way, because he was born under Gemini and he's a very volatile individual, he likes chaos. He thrives in chaos. If the worst thing you can do for Trump is to put him in a situation where everything is just perfect and it's just serene. He wouldn't work well in a serene environment. He works well in chaos. And they've created a chaotic situation and he's going to excel in it. That's my take. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to all of my channels. I have 3 YouTube channels. Please move your viewership to all the channels. Subscribe. The links are in the description. Also subscribe to my Patreon channel, my Brighteon channel, my Bitchute channel, and my Rumble channel. That way you are supporting my work by being subscribed, for a nominal fee. You can be a Patreon supporter. That helps me to cover this news. In addition, please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and purchase the products that I offer. I have nano silvers, liquids and gels, soaps and lozenges. I have a multivitamin. I have a plethora of supplements like ashwagandha, resveratrol, and turmeric, vitamin C, vitamin D3, B complex, lignans, digestive enzymes, zinc, magnesium, I have collagen, different probiotics. I have a lot of stuff to help you slow down the aging process. With proper exercise and diet and nutrition and supplementation, you can slow down the aging process. It's a 3-pillar system. Strong antioxidants like C60. I sell in a 2 ounce, a 4 ounce, and an 8 ounce in coconut and avocado oil. But C60 is a very strong antioxidant. It'll slow down aging and improve your mitochondrial health. In addition, by taking the other supplements that I offer, you will be able to control your blood glucose levels, like with ashwagandha. You can lower that inflammatory response with turmeric. You can boost your antioxidant level with also resveratrol and get rid of senescent cells. Vitamin C will help with collagen, will help rebuild your skin. You know, you take vitamin C and also the collagen and drink water, and it'll help to build a healthier skin for you. Also, if you take collagen over a regular basis, your joints will start to get better and your cartilage will get better. So, you know, if you follow this protocol that I have, and all you have to do is just go to the different anti-aging boxes. You can purchase an anti-aging box, or you can, you know, pick and choose which items that you would like to get from the store individually. But when you do this on a regular basis, you're going to have compound effects that will slow down the aging process and allow your body to heal faster. And the thing is that the way the body works is that you'll age slow. Normally, you know, the average person that's not on an anti-aging protocol, they age slow, and then eventually they're aging a little quicker, and it accelerates. And once you hit about 65, depending on your lifestyle, but around 60 or 65, it really accelerates in aging. Well, if you slow that down in your 20s, your 30s, or your 40s, or even your 50s, then by the time you get to 65, your body is biologically younger, and it's not going to age as quickly as your peers in your age group. So, you know, there's a compound effect here. And the earlier you do this, the far better you will be. So please take my advice and follow my protocol. Thank you for listening. Please help support me by being a Patreon subscriber or donating on my website. You can donate on Stripe or PayPal. It's on the homepage of the-studio-reykjavik.com. Links are in the description. And on the homepage, you can donate through Stripe or PayPal, or you can also donate through the link that's in the description, buy me a coffee. And that's a way for people that can't purchase my products, either because they can't afford them or they're out of the country, to help support my work by being a Patreon subscriber, donating on Stripe, PayPal, or buy me a coffee. Thank you for supporting my work. We'll keep on, you know, covering the news, and you have a nice night.